Right now, you might be holding something that could change your entire financial future, and you don't even know it. I'm serious. There are coins moving through your hands every single day. Coins you're spending on coffee, gas, groceries, that collectors are secretly hunting like treasure. Nobody talks about these. These are not the coins you learned about in school. These are hidden wealth, silent fortune, sitting in plain sight. Collectors are fighting over these at auctions. Real auction shock, real money, real obsession. And if you miss just one small detail, you could lose a life-changing opportunity without even realizing it. So listen carefully. Do not spend these coins. Stay with me until the end. Because the final coin, almost nobody finds it. And when they do, everything changes. Now let's talk about a coin that most people would laugh at if you showed it to them. A dull, dark, almost ugly-looking nickel, the kind people toss into a tip jar without even looking. But what if I told you that one specific version of this coin, the 1983 with D. Jefferson nickel with a blackened layer, has quietly turned into a serious money magnet? This is not hype. Where ignoring the details could mean you're literally throwing away a hidden fortune without realizing it. Back in 1983, the United States was dealing with economic pressure that most people today don't fully understand. Inflation had left scars from the late 70s. Industries were shifting, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to keep production efficient and cost-effective. That year, coins weren't treated like collectibles. They were pushed out fast, in massive quantities, just to keep up with circulation demand. But when speed increases, precision drops. And that's exactly where this story begins. Under that pressure, something subtle started happening to certain Jefferson nickels struck at the Denver Mint. Something that most people completely overlooked. At first glance, the front of the coin looks completely normal. You see Thomas Jefferson's profile facing left, calm and composed, with the word Liberty and the date 1983 stamped beside him. The D mint mark sits there quietly, almost invisible to the untrained eye. Flip it over, and you'll see Monticello, Jefferson's iconic home, standing with clean lines and structured detail. E pluribus unum above, Monticello in the center, and 5 cents and United States of America below. Nothing flashy, nothing screaming value. And that's exactly why people miss it. But here's where things get dangerous to ignore. Some of these 1983D nickels developed a strange, darkened surface, almost black, sometimes deep charcoal, sometimes uneven, caused by chemical reactions, improper storage conditions, or even subtle minting inconsistencies in the alloy mix. The composition of this coin is 75% copper and 25% nickel, and under certain conditions, that mixture reacts in ways that create this black layer effect. Most people assume it's damage. They assume it's dirt. They assume it's worthless. And that assumption, that's where people lose money. Physically, the coin feels standard, about 5 grams in weight, roughly 21.2 millimeters in diameter, and around 1.95 millimeters thick. The edge is smooth, the girth is consistent. Nothing feels unusual in your hand. But collectors don't just feel coins, they study them. They tilt them under light. They examine the texture, the toning, the depth of color. And when that black layer appears naturally, without cleaning or artificial alteration, it becomes something rare, something desirable, something collectors obsess over. Here's the part most people completely miss: survival. These coins were never meant to be saved. They were used, abused, scratched, cleaned, and destroyed over decades of circulation. And that blackened surface? Most people tried to scrub it off, thinking they were restoring the coin. But cleaning a coin like this is the fastest way to destroy its value forever. That original toning, that dark, aged, untouched surface, is exactly what makes it valuable. The moment you clean it, you erase its story. And collectors walk away. And collectors, they're not casual about this coin. When a genuine 1983 with D black layer Jefferson nickel shows up in fine condition, something strange happens. The room gets quiet. Bidding starts slow, then suddenly jumps. Not because it's flashy, but because it's misunderstood rarity. Collectors know how many were lost. They know how many were ruined. And when one survives in original condition, they don't hesitate. They compete. Aggressively, quietly, strategically, because they know this is a piece most people already threw away. Right now, in today's market, a verified example of this coin in fine condition is reaching around $68,000 at auction. Let that sink in. A nickel, something you could still find in circulation. This is hidden wealth sitting in plain sight. This is silent fortune hiding in your everyday change. And if you ever come across one with that natural black layer, listen carefully. Do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Get it professionally graded. Because one wrong move and that life-changing opportunity disappears instantly. If you're serious about spotting one, start simple. Check the date, 1983, look for the D mint mark. Then examine the surface under light. Not shiny, not polished, but dark, natural, uneven toning that looks aged, not damaged. Most people rush. They dismiss. They miss it. But patience, that's where the real money is. This is one of those coins where slowing down can literally change your financial future. And if you think this is shocking, what comes next is even bigger. The next coin isn't just rare. It's the kind of discovery that makes collectors nervous. The kind that almost never shows up. And when it does, it doesn't stay available for long. Stay with me. There's a moment every serious coin collector fears, realizing the coin they ignored years ago is now worth more than their car. And this next nickel, it hides in plain sight, dressed like a simple commemorative piece most people barely glance at. But what makes it dangerous is that people recognize it, yet still spend it anyway. This is not fiction. This is one of those coins that slips through fingers every single day, a silent fortune disguised as history. And if you don't slow down and really look at it, you could lose something that collectors are quietly chasing right now. In 2004, the United States wasn't just minting coins, it was telling a story. The nation was marking 200 years since the legendary Lewis and Clark expedition and the Louisiana Purchase of 1,803 amperes turning point that doubled the size of the country and reshaped its future forever. But here's what most people miss. During that time, the U.S. Mint pushed out special Jefferson Nickels under intense production demand, blending history with circulation. These weren't meant to sit in collections. They were meant to move. And because of that, something unexpected happened. Certain coins from the Denver Mint, marked with D, developed a level of rarity tied not to errors, but to survival and condition under pressure. When you look at this coin's front, you'll notice Thomas Jefferson's portrait, but it's not the same as older nickels. It's a refined, sharper version, almost more modern in its expression. The word liberty is still there, along with the year 2004, but everything feels slightly reimagined. Now flip it over, and this is where history hits you. Instead of Monticello, you see imagery tied directly to the Lewis and Clark journey. In one version, it's the famous keelboat cutting through water, symbolizing exploration and uncertainty. The inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 5 cents are still present, but the energy of the design feels completely different, almost like the coin is telling you a story most people ignore. The composition remains consistent with modern nickels, 75% copper and 25% nickel, but don't let that fool you. Under the surface, these coins experienced variations during production that most people would never notice. The weight sits at about 5 grams. The diameter holds steady at 21.2 millimeters, and the thickness is around 1.95 millimeters. In your hand, it feels completely normal. That's the trap. Because nothing about its physical form screams value, yet everything about its survival does. Here's where things get serious. These coins were released into everyday circulation, handled, dropped, scratched, exposed to moisture, and in many cases, cleaned by people who thought they were improving them. But collectors, they're not looking for shiny. They're looking for original. That untouched surface, that natural toning, even slight dullness, it tells a story of authenticity. The moment someone cleans this coin, even lightly, microscopic damage occurs. And just like that, its value can collapse. Forever. So if you're holding one right now, hear this clearly. Do not clean this coin. That natural surface is everything. What makes the 2004 with D. Lewis and Clark Bicentennial Nickels so rare today isn't just its history. It's how few have survived in fine condition without being altered. Most were spent. Most were worn down. And most were dismissed as common because millions were produced. But collectors don't chase what was made. They chase what remains. And what remains in original, untouched condition is shrinking every single year. There's also something subtle that serious collectors fixate on: the clarity of the design details. On the obverse, Jefferson's hair texture, the sharpness of the lettering, the spacing around Liberty. On the reverse, the definition of the keelboat, the crispness of the water lines, and the alignment of the inscriptions. These tiny details, the ones most people never notice, are exactly what separate an ordinary coin from a high-value piece. This detail changes everything. And then there's the mint mark, that small D sitting quietly on the coin. To the average person, it means nothing. But to collectors, it tells a story of origin, production conditions, and distribution. Coins from the Denver Mint during this period experienced different handling patterns compared to Philadelphia issues, and that difference plays directly into rarity today. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it matters more than most people realize. Now imagine this scenario. A collector spots one of these coins at auction, not shiny, not perfect, but real. Original surface, fine condition, no cleaning, no tampering. The bidding doesn't explode immediately. It builds, slowly, quietly. Then suddenly, it jumps. Because the people in that room understand what they're looking at. They know how many were lost. They know how many were ruined. And they know that opportunities like this don't come often. That's when it turns into a fight. Not loud, but intense. Today, this specific coin, the 2004 with D. Lewis and Clark Expedition Bicentennial Nickel in fine, original condition, is reaching around $81,000 in the market. Let that hit you. A coin people still spend at gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, is sitting at the level of serious money. This is hidden wealth. This is silent fortune. And the scariest part? Most people have seen it and still let it go. So what should you do right now? First, check your coins. Not quickly, carefully. Look for the year 2004. Find the D mint mark. Examine the surface, not for shine, but for authenticity. If it looks untouched, slightly aged, with natural toning, you might be holding something special. And if you are, do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Get it professionally graded. Because one careless decision can erase tens of thousands of dollars in value. Most people rush through their change. They assume. They ignore, but the ones who slow down, the ones who pay attention, they're the ones who find opportunities like this. Patience isn't just a skill here, it's profit. Real, life-changing profit hiding in something as small as a nickel. And if you think this coin was surprising, the next one is on a completely different level. We're talking about a piece so rare, so easy to miss, that even experienced collectors have overlooked it. And when they realize what they missed, it's already gone. Stay with me. Most people don't lose money because they're careless. They lose it because they think they know what something is. And this next coin, it plays that exact trick on you. At first glance, it looks slightly dirty, maybe even damaged. Those brown spots make people assume it's been sitting in some forgotten jar for years. So what do? They ignore it, or worse, they clean it, or worst of all, they spend it. And that's the moment a silent fortune disappears without a sound. Back in 1982, the United States was in a strange financial transition. The economy was still recovering from inflation shocks, interest rates were unusually high, and the mint was under pressure to maintain coin production without interruption. Speed mattered more than perfection. And when that happens, subtle variations begin to slip through, not dramatic errors, but quiet differences in how coins age, react, and survive. The Denver Mint, marked by that small D, was pushing out Jefferson Nickels that would go on to live hard lives in circulation. But a few of them, they developed something collectors now watch for very closely. Take a close look at the front of this coin. Thomas Jefferson's portrait sits there, facing left, calm and familiar. The word liberty is stamped beside him, followed by the year 1982, and that tiny D mint mark tucked near the date. Nothing about it screams rarity. Flip it over and you'll see Monticello, Jefferson's home, structured, symmetrical, almost architectural in its presence. E pluribus unum sits above, Monticello across the center, and 5 cents along with United States of America below. It's a design people have seen thousands of times, which is exactly why they overlook it. But here's where everything changes. Some of these 1,982D nickels began developing natural brown spotting across the surface, not random dirt, not damage, but a chemical reaction within the coin's own metal composition. Remember, this coin is made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Over time, under certain environmental conditions, the copper component can react in a way that creates these brown-toned spots, sometimes faint, sometimes bold, sometimes uneven. And while most people see flaws, collectors see authenticity. They see untouched history. They see something that hasn't been tampered with. Physically, the coin feels completely ordinary. Around 5 grams in weight, about 21.2 millimeters in diameter, and roughly 1.95 millimeters thick. The edge is smooth, the girth consistent. Nothing feels special in your hand. That's the danger, because the real value isn't in how it feels, it's in what it shows. Those brown spots, their placement, their depth, their natural formation, these are the tiny details that collectors obsess over. Now here's the part that most people get wrong, and it costs them everything. They see those brown spots and think, this needs to be cleaned, so they scrub it, polish it, try to restore it to a shiny finish. And in doing that, they destroy the very thing that made it valuable. That natural toning, those organic spots, once removed, they can never be brought back. Ever. And collectors can tell instantly. So hear this clearly. Never clean this coin. That original surface is not a flaw. It's the reason it matters. What makes this coin rare today isn't how many were made. It's how few survived in this specific condition. Most 1,982 nickels were heavily circulated, worn down, scratched, or altered. The ones with natural brown spotting, even fewer survived without being fixed by well-meaning hands. And among those, only a small number remain in fine condition, not perfect, but honest. Real, untouched. That's what collectors are hunting. And collectors don't just want this coin, they feel something about it. It's not just metal, it's a piece of time, preserved in a way that can't be recreated. When one appears in the market, the behavior is almost predictable. Quiet interest at first, then a sudden shift. Bidders start watching closely. Then one moves, then another. And before you realize it, it turns into a controlled battle. Not loud, not chaotic, but deeply competitive. Because everyone in that room knows opportunities like this don't repeat often. The obsession goes deeper than most people realize. Collectors examine the spacing of the letters, the sharpness of Jefferson's profile, the condition of Monticello's steps, the alignment of E pluribus unum. But more than anything, they study those brown spots. Are they natural? Are they consistent with age? Do they match known patterns from that era? These micro details, the ones most people would never even think about, are what separate an ordinary nickel from a life-changing discovery. Today, in the current market, a 1982 with D. Jefferson nickel with natural brown spotting in fine, original condition has reached around $197. Let that settle in. A coin that people mistake for dirty, for damaged, for worthless, is sitting at the level of serious money. This is hidden wealth. This is silent fortune. This is the kind of opportunity people lose simply because they didn't look twice. So what should you do right now? Slow down. Go through your coins carefully. Look for the year 1982, find that D mint mark. Then examine the surface, not for shine, but for truth. If you see brown spotting, don't panic. Don't touch it. Don't try to fix it. That could be the detail that changes everything. And if you think you've found one, do not spend this coin. Get it professionally graded. Because without authentication, its true value stays hidden. Most people miss this because they're in a rush. They assume they've seen it all before. But the reality is, the biggest opportunities don't look special at first. They look ordinary, forgotten, ignored, and that's exactly why they're still out there, waiting to be found by someone patient enough to notice. And if you think this coin was intense, the next one is something else entirely. We're talking about a nickel so rare, so quietly powerful, that even seasoned collectors hesitate when they see it, because they know what's at stake. Stay with me, because what's coming next might be the one coin you'll never forgive yourself for missing. Imagine holding a coin that survived one of the most tense turning points in American history, and then casually handing it away for 5 cents. That's exactly what's happening right now. This next nickel doesn't look rare. It doesn't shine. It doesn't beg for attention. In fact, most people ignore it instantly, especially because it doesn't even have a mint mark. And that's where the danger begins. Because sometimes, what's missing on a coin is the very thing that makes it a silent fortune. Go back to 1949 for a second. The United States was stepping into a new global role after World War II, but the pressure hadn't disappeared. It had shifted. The Cold War was quietly building. Industries were adjusting from wartime production to peacetime demand. And the U.S. Mint was working to stabilize coin output after years of material changes during the war. Just a few years earlier, nickels were made with silver to conserve nickel for military use. By 1949, the mint had returned to its standard composition, but the transition left behind subtle inconsistencies, production fatigue, and overlooked variations that would later become collector gold. Now look at the coin itself. On the front, Thomas Jefferson's profile is strong, classic, and unmistakable. In God we trust. Curves along the left edge, liberty sits to the right, followed by the year 1949. But here's the key detail. There's no mint mark. Nothing. No D, no S. That means this coin was struck in Philadelphia, where mint marks were traditionally not used at the time. To most people, that absence means nothing. To collectors, it means everything. Flip the coin over and you'll see Monticello, Jefferson's home, standing firm in the center. The architecture is detailed but often worn in circulated pieces. Above it reads, E pluribus unum, and below you'll find Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. It's a design that feels familiar, almost too familiar. And that familiarity is exactly why people overlook the details that matter. The composition of this coin is 75% copper and 25% nickel, a return to the pre-war standard. It weighs about 5 grams, measures 21.2 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness close to 1.95 millimeters. The edge is smooth, the girth consistent, nothing about it feels unusual. But collectors aren't just holding coins, they're reading them. Every scratch, every tone shift, every worn detail tells a story of where that coin has been and how it survived. Here's where things get serious. Coins from 1949 without a mint mark were produced in large numbers, yes, but very few survived in fine, original condition without being cleaned, altered, or heavily damaged. Think about it. This coin has had over 7 decades to be spent, dropped, scratched, exposed to moisture, and misunderstood. Most didn't make it through intact, and the ones that did, many were improved by people who thought cleaning would help, not realizing they were erasing the coin's true value forever. That's why original's condition is everything. That slightly dull surface, that natural aging, even the darker toning that builds over time, these are not flaws. These are signals. They tell collectors that the coin hasn't been tampered with. The moment you clean it, polish it, or try to make it shine, you destroy that signal. And once it's gone for good. So if you ever come across one of these, do not clean this coin. Leave it exactly as it is. Now let's talk about what collectors actually look for. It's not just the year and the missing mint mark, it's the details most people ignore. The sharpness of Jefferson's hair, the clarity of the word liberty, the spacing between letters, the strength of Monticello's columns, the visibility of the steps. These tiny features determine whether a coin is just old or truly valuable. This detail changes everything. And then there's the emotional side of collecting, something most people underestimate. Coins like this carry weight. Not physical weight, but historical weight. This coin existed during a time when the world was uncertain, when America was redefining itself. Holding it isn't just holding metal, it's holding a piece of that moment. And collectors feel that. That's why when one of these appears in the market, especially in fine, untouched condition, it doesn't sit for long. Auction behavior around this coin is fascinating. It doesn't always start with loud excitement. Instead, there's a quiet recognition. A few serious collectors lock in. They watch. They wait. And then, almost suddenly, the bids start climbing. Not wildly, but deliberately. Each move calculated. Because everyone involved understands the same thing. Supply is shrinking, demand is rising, and chances like this don't come often. Today, a 1949 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark, preserved in fine, original condition, is reaching around $131,000 in the current market. Let that sink in. A coin people still find in old jars, drawers, and forgotten collections is sitting at the level of serious money. This is hidden wealth. This is silent fortune. And the only difference between someone who finds it and someone who loses it is attention. So here's what you need to do. Start checking your coins, slowly, carefully. Look for the year 1949. Confirm there's no mint mark. Then examine the condition. Not shiny, original. Not perfect, authentic. If it looks untouched, aged naturally, with consistent wear, but no cleaning, you might be holding something incredible. And if you are, do not spend this coin. Get it professionally graded, because without proper authentication, its true value stays locked away. Most people miss coins like this because they assume old doesn't mean valuable. But in this world, it's not just about age. It's about survival, condition, and detail. The smallest difference can mean the biggest reward. And patience? That's what separates people who cash in from people who miss out. And if you think this coin was powerful, the next one is something collectors almost don't talk about openly. It's rarer. It's more intense. And when it shows up, it doesn't just attract attention. It creates obsession. Stay with me, because the final coin might be the one that changes everything. There's a specific kind of mistake that doesn't feel like a mistake until it's too late. It's the kind where you recognize the coin, you've seen it 100 times before, and because of that familiarity, you trust it. You don't question it. You don't inspect it. You just spend it. And this next nickel, it lives inside that exact blind spot. It's quiet. It's common looking. And that's exactly why people are accidentally letting a hidden fortune slip through their hands every single day. The year 1998 didn't feel historic at the time, but beneath the surface, the United States was in a period of rapid economic expansion. Technology was rising, markets were accelerating, and the demand for coin production remained steady as everyday transactions increased. The U.S. Mint, especially in Denver, was operating under pressure to maintain speed and volume. And just like we've seen before, when production is pushed, subtle variations begin to appear. Not loud errors, not obvious mistakes, but quiet characteristics that only reveal their importance years later. Take a close look at the front of the 1998 with D. Jefferson nickel. Thomas Jefferson's portrait is there, steady and familiar, facing left. In God we trust sits along the edge, while liberty and the year 1998 are stamped clearly to the right. And then there's that small D mint mark, easy to miss, easy to ignore, but critical. Flip the coin over, and Monticello returns to the center stage, with its structured columns and balanced design. Above it, E pluribus unum. Below, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. It looks like every other nickel you've ever seen. And that's the trap. Because what makes this coin powerful isn't what stands out, it's what survived. The composition is the standard 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it that familiar weight of about 5 grams. The diameter sits at 21.2 millimeters, the thickness around 1.95 millimeters, with a smooth edge and consistent girth. Nothing unusual in your hand. Nothing that would make you stop. But collectors don't rely on first impressions. They rely on what most people overlook. Here's where things shift. During the late 90s, coins like this were heavily circulated. They were used constantly. Vending machines, stores, gas stations, passed from hand to hand without a second thought. And because of that, most 1998 D nickels today are worn, scratched, dulled, or worse, cleaned. That's right, people tried to fix them. They polished them, scrubbed them, tried to bring back shine. And in doing so, they erased the one thing collectors are desperate to find: originality. That untouched surface, that natural toning, even slight dullness or soft wear, that's what signals authenticity. It tells collectors the coin hasn't been tampered with. The moment you clean it, you introduce micro-abrasions that permanently damage its value. And collectors can spot that instantly. So if you take one thing from this, never clean this coin. Leave it exactly as you found it. Because that original condition is where the real money lives. Now let's talk about the details that change everything. Collectors don't just glance at this coin, they study it. The sharpness of Jefferson's hair, the clarity of the lettering in Liberty, the spacing between the date and the rim. On the reverse, they examine Monticello's steps, the definition of the columns, the alignment of the text. These are microscopic differences, but they separate ordinary coins from rare survivors. Most people miss this, and that's why they miss the opportunity. And then there's the mint mark, that small D. It tells you this coin came from the Denver Mint, where production conditions created subtle variations in strike quality and distribution patterns. Coins from this mint, especially from high-volume years, like 1998, faced intense circulation pressure. So finding one in fine original condition today, that's not common. That's rare, and rarity is what drives demand. Collectors aren't just interested in this coin, they're holding on to it. That's another reason it's becoming harder to find. When a genuine 1998D Jefferson nickel in fine condition surfaces, it doesn't bounce around the market. It gets absorbed, locked into collections, removed from circulation permanently. And every time that happens, the supply shrinks just a little more. Auction rooms tell the real story. When one of these coins appears, it doesn't explode with attention right away. It builds, quietly. A few serious collectors recognize it. They watch, they wait. And then the bidding starts. Controlled, intentional, and suddenly it escalates. Because everyone involved knows the same truth. This is not just a coin. It's a shrinking opportunity. Right now, in today's market, this 1998 with D. Jefferson nickel in fine, untouched condition is reaching around $82,000 a nickel. Something people still carry, still spend, still ignore. This is hidden wealth. This is silent fortune. And the only reason it remains hidden is because people don't take the time to look. So here's what you need to do. Go through your coins, not quickly but carefully. Look for the year 1998, find that D mint mark. Then examine the surface, not for shine, but for honesty. If it looks natural, slightly aged, untouched, you could be holding something valuable. And if you are, do not spend this coin. Get it professionally graded, because without authentication, its true worth stays invisible. The biggest mistake people make is assuming that modern coins can't be valuable. But this proves otherwise. Value isn't always about age. It's about condition, survival, and awareness. The people who understand that are the ones quietly building wealth from coins others ignore. And now think about everything you've seen in this video. 5 coins, 5 opportunities, each one hiding in plain sight, each one ignored, dismissed, or accidentally spent by people who had no idea what they were holding. This isn't just about coins anymore, it's about awareness. Because once you start seeing these details, you can't unsee them. So before you leave, check your pockets, check your drawers, check that jar of coins you haven't touched in years. Because what looks ordinary today could be life-changing tomorrow. And if you want more discoveries like this, coins nobody talks about, coins hiding real money, stay connected to Rare Coin News USA. Because the next coin we uncover might already be in your hands